We've made it to the end of the Acolyte. Thank the Lord. Not a moment sooner, I might add.
Yes, yes.
This show, it exhausts me. Now we've seen 7 episodes of incoherent logic, bad acting, bad writing, bad directing, a complete missing the mark in almost every way. There's almost nothing about this show that has worked.
Brother, what's that?
For the longest time, I've held to this idea that media criticism is almost entirely subjective. Your opinion about a movie is entirely subjective, and that is the point of art. That is the point of the medium that is visual storytelling. But what I'm realizing is that there's universal standards for good filmmaking, for good production, television production, filmmaking, throw it in the same category. If you deter from these things, then it affects the overall quality of the product. There are things that are objectively good about a movie or show, and there are things that are objectively bad as well. So in other words, not everything is just my opinion and your opinion. It can't be that way. The reason I'm bringing this up at all is because I can recognize that people will enjoy things that I don't, and that is okay. I'm not going to say that I'm glad that you like The Acolyte. I'm not going to say that because, again, I can't understand how you could. I can't understand how anyone could like this show. And maybe that's the point, is like, okay, but that's me. You have a different opinion than I do. But what I am saying is that you cannot look at this show and say that is an objectively a good show, because it is of low quality in so many areas. It's not just that like, oh, well, things didn't work for me. And this scene didn't work for me and this didn't work for me and blah, blah, blah. Okay, that happens sometimes. Yeah. But when something is good, it is of high quality. It's more universally recognized. It's easier to point it out because you can see the quality in which it was done. So it's not so much that like, oh, well, this was good and this was better and that was best. And it's so much like here's a minimum standard, right? It's almost like we're just saying, here's a minimum standard of quality. The acting needs to be somewhere in here. The writing needs to be somewhere in here. And if it's better than that, great. But it at least needs to be believable. In other words, it needs to be immersive. It needs to allow us to have that suspension of disbelief for us to enjoy a story. If you have any element of that is lacking, then it hurts the experience. And so that's the problem here. There are things about The Acolyte that are incoherent and ill-produced, ill-conceived, and of subpar quality, whether you want to talk about the acting or the production values or the directing, that make it an objectively bad show. I'm okay with people liking it. It doesn't mean it's a great show. And there's things I like. There's things in media that I like. There's things in Star Wars I like. Can I look at the prequels and say these are objectively amazing films? In some ways they are. In some ways they are amazing films, but they have some flaws. Now, for me, I take the flaws with the good, and I can get past the flaws because there's enough good that works. What does work works enough and has longevity to it that I can enjoy it. But when nothing works, I can't enjoy it. Overall, like the fighting choreography is better than almost anything we've seen since Disney took over Star Wars. But that's because like the sequels had, pretty toned down choreography. The set pieces were pretty cool and they looked cool as far as like the visual, the framing of the shot, the lighting and everything, like the composition of the shot looked great. The Last Jedi is still, to me, one of the best looking Star Wars films ever made for a lot of reasons. But anyways, as we go into this show, I realize I'm ranting here. As we go into this final episode, I'm saying these things because this is an example of like how I've become convinced of this idea that there are some things about film criticism, about media, about visual storytelling that you can look at and you can say that this is objectively bad or objectively good. It's not really about whether or not you like it or not. That's kind of a whole separate thing, because there are plenty of films that I have seen that I can say, wow, that was beautifully made, beautifully acted, an amazing film, but I don't like it. But it's still an incredible film because everything was done well. It doesn't mean, just because I don't like it, that makes it a bad show or a bad film. It just means that for whatever reason, I didn't like it or love it, but it can still be objectively well made and well produced and well put together. It can still be a crowning achievement in production, television production, or filmmaking. In this instance, The Acolyte to me is a failure in every aspect of filmmaking. So the first scene is a continuation of the last scene from the last episode. Osha's wearing the helmet. Kamir approaches and has this like smirk on his face as he's intrigued by what's happening. You know, she's wearing the helmet. The force can't penetrate it, but she's in there. You know, whatever she takes in there with her, it's there. Something goes wrong. She starts freaking out and he has to intervene, but it's weird. Like suddenly there's 2 shots of him he's using the force to like help take the helmet off or something. And his eyes turn black, like whenever the witches possess somebody. I don't understand what the heck is happening in the scene. She finally takes off the helmet and she says she has a vision of May killing Saul. We go from there. She's freaking out, you know, breathing really hard, like almost like she was choking. May and Saul are, again, they're continuing their conversation. Saul still defends himself, saying that, you know, it was right for them to intervene. May blames the whole thing on him, that all these that she started the fire. She's the one maybe she didn't intend for it to kill everybody. Okay, that's fair, but you still were reckless. You still locked your sister in a room and said you were going to kill her. Come on, do you want to be taken seriously as a threat or not? Like, take responsibility for yourself, May. As Saul's trying to explain about Osha and May and how they're this virgins of the force and trying to explain to her something very important to the plot, she decides to interrupt him and just escape once again because she doesn't want to go back to Master Venestra. She doesn't want to stand trial, whatever. I don't know. Seems like a rather odd time to cut off the conversation. And then we get into this whole chase sequence where they're flying through an asteroid field, and eventually Basil like messes with Saul's ship, sends him spiraling, and this little dude cannot make up his mind. Basil is a vessel for the writers to tell the audience who's the good guy now. But I'm telling you, it's not May. May is not suddenly the good guy here. I don't care what that little furball says. And so the chase sequence, I mean, it looked pretty cool. I wish it had amounted to anything because it didn't seem like that asteroid belt was really all that dangerous, but it sure looked cool. She goes down to the planet and he just follows her. Yeah. And so Osha has a argument with Kamir about, you know, finding Saul and finding May, and you know they're all just going to end up at the same place anyways. And Kamir's convinced to take her, I guess, for some reason. So Saul is still trying to track down May. She's disappeared. She's creeping around the old temple. I guess they're on sorry, I forgot to mention they're on Brendok now. They're back at the old fortress. The place actually doesn't look terrible in some areas, and Osha is able to actually fix the door somehow. I don't know how she did that. I guess she's good at stuff. Whatever. Saul's creeping around trying to find May. May just keeps like eluding him, and I don't understand the point of this. If she's trying to escape, then why did she crash land here? Okay. Yeah, I will say that if there's one thing that was fairly exciting to watch, it was the second duel between Saul and Kamir. It has some really great moments for sure. I mean, it's pretty flashy, but it's nice to see the speed and skill that was there in the prequels at least somewhat present again. You know, it's not exactly the same. I think they need to work on their like cinematography and lighting at times because it's often just way too dark, but it's nice to see that at least. But again, not enough to save this show. Not enough, guys. It is pretty cool to see, even though Kamir is supposed to be this like really hardcore Sith who's been trained and is super good and was able to take down all these Jedi, like Saul still kind of is clearly like the superior fighter between the two of them. And it's pretty cool to see. Like, I was rooting for Saul. Guys, I've been rooting for Saul this whole show. Like, from the beginning, he's the only character I think that you want to root for him. You just do. He's too likable. So we get to Osha and May, and they have this conversation about what Saul said or didn't say. May is basically implying that Saul lied to Osha, that Saul killed their mother. Saul is the reason why Osha has had all these negative emotions and has never been able to let them go. That's again, that's a mischaracterization. That's a false way to frame this, because you're leaving out a very key element here about the fact that mother was behaving very aggressively towards the Jedi and did not give any indication that she was going to let Osha go. And then she does this very crazy stunt where she turns into a smoke demon monster and all the witches try to take them out and control them, like leaving out some very important context here to just piss off Osha to make her fight. And then they fight And the crazy thing is that they have like the exact same fighting moves. And you're like, oh, it's because they're twins. Well, yeah, but they were trained differently. You know, she was trained as a Jedi and May was trained by the Sith guy. Like their fighting styles should not be exact. But yeah, here we go. They're fighting each other and it's just weird. It feels a little cartoony. Like I don't even know why they're fighting right now. I don't know. Are they actually trying to kill each other? And so I guess while they're fighting, you know, Kamir and Saul continue to fight. You know, okay, the stakes have been raised a little bit. It's getting good now, you know, like, no, it's not. It's still not great. Just because action is happening doesn't mean that it's like, oh, suddenly a great show. Also, their choreography is a little weird. It's not perfect. It's sloppy. Saul eventually disarms Kamir and then May just like interrupts them. I don't know if Saul was planning on killing Kamir. I guess it's anybody's guess. At least he was going to hold him prisoner. I so wanted to see Kamir just die right then. Like, I just wanted him to finally be dispatched. No, we didn't get that. But then May comes in, steals Saul's lightsaber. Somehow, he was just fighting. Saul was just fighting Kamir for all this time, and Kamir never managed to do that. But May comes in and manages to just take his weapon like it's nothing. Okay, whatever, show. So May has, I guess she has the upper hand in this moment. And Kamir, you know, eggs her on like, come on, finish him. Then your journey to the dark side will be complete. You know, all Palpatine style. Although I'm going to argue here that I don't think Saul would be so easily defeated in this moment, even if May tried to kill him. Just because she's got the lightsaber, that don't mean nothing. And she's like, no, I want him to confess what he did. And I want him to tell the Senate and the Republic. And I want him to pay for his crimes. And I have to ask, what crimes? What did he do? I'm still trying to understand this, guys. What did he do that was so wrong that he needs to he needs to answer for his crime? How about you, May? How about you answer for your crimes? How about you answer for the lives that you cost, for your negligence and for your anger as a child? You were this horrible sister. You were horrible to your own sister. You were horrible to the Jedi. You were antagonistic to everybody. You've been that way since the beginning. You've gaslit these Jedi into thinking that they've been so wrong and so evil for trying to help. No, like seriously, like screw you, May. Saul insists that he did the right thing. He's like, I wanted to protect you both. And May says, you know, protect us from what? I don't know, maybe the evil smoke monster mother and her coven of witches that are toxic and dark and evil and wanted to control you. She's harping on this one thing. And you're like, that's a big deal, killing your mother. Yeah, I agree. Well, okay, what if your mother was a terrible person? Does that change everything? And not only that, but what if your mother, maybe more importantly, was doing something that seemed very life-threatening and antagonistic and aggressive and violent. And in the heat of the moment, Saul acted out of fear and a sense of protection, wanting to protect this child. And so he goes after what he thinks is the source of the problem, which is the Mother Anisha. Yes, he killed their mother. She deserved to die for how she was acting, for the way she led all that, for everything she was doing that in the moment. She was stupid and she deserved to die. I'm sorry, you can't have it both ways. Either you're a good mother who says and does the right things and wants your children to live good lives. If you throw the dark side into it and you're sending these mixed signals and then you behave like that, there was no threat. It's not like the Jedi were about to attack May in that moment. They were like, suddenly they just artificially created a crisis in that moment. And so Saul was right to dispatch that evil, toxic mother. I don't care that she was their mother. She was evil and she was manipulative and she was committing violence in that moment. And so Saul was right. The show is having these twins obsess over it. You killed our mother. Well, that changes everything. Let's just completely forget everything else that happened. No, in this final confrontation, these final moments, Saul is getting ganged up on by all three of these people. Somehow in this entire series, in this moment with all these characters and all their flaws, Saul is the only one that's going to end up dead. And that's justice. It's good. It's okay that he dies because it was the right thing. He deserved to die. He deserved to answer for his crimes. I have never hated a protagonist as much as I have in this show. Seriously, Osha, what is the matter with you? Okay, he didn't tell you all this stuff. And so because of that, he deserves to die. Let's say that he does answer to the council, right? He does answer to the Senate, the Republic. That doesn't change everything else that happened. It's this fixating on this one detail, this one effect. We're not looking at the cause. We're only looking at the effect of what happened. And that's why I hate this show. Like, we're glossing over so many details here. We have to, the characters, they got to have their motivations in the end. And so Osha murders Saul in cold blood in front of everyone by force choking him. Oh, and as she's choking him, she says to stop talking. Yeah, he can't talk because you're choking him. Saul, I guess, eventually like accepts it, doesn't fight back or anything. I don't know if you can fight back against that, whatever, but accepts his fate, keels over, and dies. Osha's lightsaber that she's holding turns red, indication that she has now become a dark side user or whatever. I don't know how it works, but it's not like Osha and May suddenly turned back to the light and became good characters. Like, now they're both evil. Nobody came out on top of the moral. Nobody came out on top here of the moral high ground. The only one that did got choked out. And so at this point, you know, I mentally started checking out of this episode. They're trying to flee from the Jedi. They don't want to be captured. They don't want to answer and explain everything. More covering up, more covering up. I guess it solves everything. You just killed a guy for covering up something, and now you're going to cover up more. And now May gets to avoid the penalty of her crimes by getting her mind wiped, by hiding it. Such a bunch of hypocrites here. Well, we're just gonna, you know, it wasn't okay for Saul to hide the truth for good reasons. It's okay for us to hide the truth because we're the moral, you know, we're morally superior. I don't know if you guys realize this, but lying, here's something you may not hear Christians say. There are certain instances in which I believe lying is acceptable, and I'll explain why. Okay, there's a biblical precedent for it. When you go in the Old Testament and you look at the story of the Israelites in Jericho, okay, there's a woman that lives in the city. Her name is Rahab. She's a prostitute. She takes in 2 Israelite spies. Now, she could have turned those spies over to the guards, and the guards would have killed them or captured them, whatever. She decides to lie to the guards and protect the 2 Israelite spies. She does this because she believes in God, the true God of the Bible, of the Israelites, and she knows that destruction is coming to Jericho. So she wants her family and her life to be spared. Now, you might say she's doing it out of selfish reasons. I would disagree with that. I think it's because she wisely understands that the God of the universe is about to bring this city down. But the point is that she lied to protect them. I will introduce a concept here to you that I would apply to something more modern as well. Evil people are not entitled to the truth. Especially if it will enable them to do more evil. You know, in the 1940s, when Nazi Germany was taking Jewish people, sending them to concentration camps, killing them, and people were trying to hide and avoid the Nazis. Oftentimes they were hiding in attics and basements and hidden rooms and things like that. If somebody was protecting them, keeping them from the Nazis, well, they would have to lie about the fact that they are hiding these Jewish people. Okay, so they're lying to save them from evil people. Nobody in their right mind who is trying to do the right thing, trying to do the good, no sensible person would tell those Nazis that they have Jews hiding just because of the fact that they were asked, because of the fact that they didn't want to lie. Like, oh, well, I can't lie. You got me there. I guess I have to tell the truth. No, you don't. No, you don't. But it's okay for these girls, come here, to all lie, to protect them, to hide their crimes, to hide what they've done, to avoid the Jedi, because Jedi are bad. Absolute double standard, ridiculous. It's a moral dilemma. It's a moral dilemma when you're forced to lie about something. But there are certain instances where you should lie. Evil people are not entitled to the truth if it enables them to do more evil. There's supposed to be this touching emotional moment at the end with Osha and May. You know, it's probably the most emotional that Amanda Steinberg has been the whole series, but it lands flat for me because I am not cheering for these 2 girls anymore. I mean, I never was once cheering for May. I hated May from the beginning, but the music is all like sentimental and uplifting and positive sounding. And then, you know, Osha's going to go back with Kamir and train with him. And May is going to be taken into the Jedi Council, but she's got her mind wiped. So she's being treated as like a victim now. And so there is this scene at the end with Venestra and this senator and, you know, wanting to investigate with other Jedi. And they use Saul as a scapegoat. And if I didn't have enough reasons already to hate Vernestra, I have even more now somehow. But I've got one now. I certainly hate her now. So I guess it's supposed to emphasize, oh yeah, corrupt Jedi. Here we go. She's a corrupt Jedi. Look what they're doing. They're covering it up more. They're using Saul as a scapegoat. Like, Saul deserves so much better, y'all. I pretty much hate almost every character on this show now that I'm thinking about it, except for maybe Jackie. Everybody else in this show sucks. You're all terrible people. You all need therapy. None of you should be Jedi or Sith. None of you should be in any kind of role of power. Y'all should all go back to civilian life and leave everybody else alone, because you're all dangerous psychopaths. The show had such a flimsy foundation that I knew it would not pay off in the end. You can't really build a strong final. You can't really develop a satisfying conclusion from such a flimsy foundation. And the problem is that in episode 7, they made the foundation worse. Like, there was a way you could have written things that actually shows the Jedi being very flawed and perhaps deserving of death. I don't know that I would even go that far. May's motivations don't add up because she's misguided and she's wrong. And Osha ends up at the same place. Osha actually started out as a decent character in terms of her moral compass, but all that's been corrupted now. And I don't know, maybe the moral of the story is that the Sith actually won and are corrupt, and they're the ones that are really behind all this. And look at what the Sith do. But really, it seems more like the message is showing that the ones who are in charge, these patriarchal Jedi, somehow they're patriarchal, even though they have tons of women, but they are the true evil ones. The Sith are just oppressed, hot people that know how to explain the Force better. The Night Sisters are just innocent coven that should have just been left alone, and they have their ways, and you shouldn't question it because you're not a part of that society, and you wouldn't know, and you wouldn't understand, and you're ignorant. The show is a mistake, and it should not be rewarded with a second season. And while I appreciate, some of the good choreography, couple of good characters like Master Saul, that actor deserved better. Did you know that he learned English to be on this show? And I feel bad for him because he did all of that, and this is what he has to show for it. And it's not his fault. Like, the guy that plays, I don't know his name, I'm sorry. The guy that plays Saul, he did his part. He did exactly what he was supposed to do. I don't think a single episode of this show got the John Hand signature of approval from me. We keep giving Disney chances. Put together something well done. Like, we keep giving Kathleen Kennedy chances, and she keeps disappointing. They keep disappointing. At this point, the only thing that I am really excited about is Andor Season 2. And as much as I love the character of Rey, I have no faith in that director. Absolutely no faith in that director, that she will pull it off. So here we have The Acolyte, perhaps one of the worst produced shows that Star Wars has ever released. It's not just review bombing. It's that bad. You look at the show and you think, like, there's a way you could have done this that would have actually made it. It actually could have been a good show if you had made some simple changes. That's all, folks. We are at the end of our journey. I'm sure I'll make some more videos on this as I settle in my thoughts more. As for you, what did you think of the episode? Join me in the comments below and tell me what you thought about the Acolyte season finale. Hopefully series finale, because like I said, this show does not deserve a second season. If it does get a second season, I'm going to riot because, oh my goodness, $180 million spent on this. No. Thanks for tuning in, John Hand Entertainment. That show was terrible. Let's watch something better. I need to go rinse my mouth out of this show and watch something better. So I'll see y'all later. The power of one, the power of two, the power of many.